The red emergency lights painted the walls of Admiral Doyen's office in blood-colored shadows. He sat at his desk, hands clasped together, staring at the holographic display floating before him. The image showed a planet burning. New Bizan, one of humanity's newest colonies, was dying. "Sir, we're receiving the final transmission now," said the communications officer through the intercom. Her voice shook. Doyen closed his eyes and nodded, even though she couldn't see him. "Play it." Static filled the room. Then a man's voice came through. It was broken, desperate. "This is Governor Park of New Bizan. The Valix forces have breached the Capitol Dome. We have no defenses left. They're taking people, loading them onto ships. We count 40,000 dead, maybe more. Please, Earth, send help. Send anyone." There, the transmission cut to screaming, then silence. Doyen opened his eyes. They were dry. He had cried for the colonies before. Now he had no tears left, only cold anger that settled in his chest like ice. A knock came at his door. "Come in," he said. Captain Nari entered, her uniform crisp despite the late hour. She was young for a starship commander, barely 35, but her eyes held the weight of someone much older. "The council meeting is in 10 minutes, Admiral. I know." Diane stood, straightening his jacket. "Have you prepared the presentation?" "Yes, sir. Though I doubt they'll like it." "They don't have to like it, Captain. They just have to approve it." They walked through the corridors of Geneva Station together. The orbital headquarters hung above Earth like a silver crown, home to the United Earth Space Command. Through the windows, Doyen could see the blue planet below, peaceful and beautiful. How long would it stay that way? The council chamber was already full when they arrived. Generals, admirals, politicians, and diplomats filled the seats around the circular table. At the head sat President Kim, a woman in her 60s, whose hair had gone completely white over the past 3 years of Valix attacks. "Admiral Doyen," she said as he entered. "We've all heard the news from New Bizan. Please, tell us what you recommend." Doyen moved to the center of the room. Captain Nari activated the holographic display. Images of destroyed colonies appeared, spinning slowly in the air. Charts showed the pattern of attacks, the increasing casualties, the growing boldness of the Valix Empire. "For 3 years," Doyen began, "we have tried peace. We have sent ambassadors. We have appealed to the Galactic Council. We have offered treaties, trade agreements, even tribute. The Valix response has been the same every time. More attacks, more deaths, more colonies burned. We must try again," said Ambassador Hai-Jin from her seat. She looked exhausted, her face drawn. "Diplomacy takes time. We cannot simply—" 40,000 people didn't have time, Doyen interrupted. His voice was hard. The children being loaded onto slave ships didn't have time. "Ambassador, I respect your efforts. You've worked harder than anyone to find peace. But the Valix don't want peace. They want to break us." Silence fell over the room. "What are you proposing?" asked General Song, commander of Earth's ground forces. Captain Nari changed the display. Now it showed star maps, fleet positions, tactical data. "We propose a military solution, not a defensive one. An offensive one." Murmurs rippled through the council. "Are you insane?" Someone shouted. "The Valix Empire controls 200 systems. They have thousands of ships. We have, 300 warships at best?" 312, Nari corrected. "Plus our new weapon systems that have been in development." "New weapons?" President Kim leaned forward. "What weapons?" Doyen nodded to Nari, who pulled up classified files. "For the past 18 months, we've been preparing. Not for defense. For war. We've developed technology the Valix have never seen. We've trained strike teams in tactics they won't expect. We've built ships designed not to hold territory, but to strike hard and fast. "This is madness," Ambassador Hyjin said, standing. "If we attack them, they'll destroy Earth itself. The Galactic Council will condemn us. We'll be alone in the universe." "We're already alone," Doyen replied quietly. "The Galactic Council has watched us bleed for 3 years and done nothing. They call it non-interference. I call it cowardice." President Kim held up her hand for silence. "Admiral, even if we had these weapons, even if we could hurt the Valaks, what makes you think they would stop? Wouldn't we just make them angrier?" Doyen stepped closer to the table. "Madam President, I've studied the Valaks for years. Their culture, their history, their psychology. They respect one thing: strength. They attacked us because they thought we were weak. Every time we tried peace, they saw surrender. Every time we retreated, they saw fear. And if we fight back, then they'll see what humans really are." Doyen's voice grew stronger. "They think we're prey. It's time to show them that humans are predators too. Not because we want to be, but because they've given us no choice." The room erupted in arguments. Some supported the plan, others opposed it. Voices rose and fell like waves. President Kim let them argue for several minutes, then stood. The room fell silent immediately. "I've made my decision," she said. Her voice was steady, final. "Ambassador Hyjin, you will have one more chance. Return to the Galactic Council. Demand they intervene. Demand they stop the Valaks. Give them 1 week to respond." Hyjin bowed her head. "Yes, Madam President." "And if they refuse," President Kim continued, turning to Doyen, "then Admiral, you have permission to proceed with your plan. Humanity will draw a line. The Valaks will not cross it again." Later that night, Doyen stood in the observation deck, looking at Earth below. Captain Nari joined him, 2 cups of coffee in her hands. She offered him one. "Do you think it will work?" she asked. "It has to," Doyen replied. "Because if it doesn't, humanity dies. But if it does—" He paused, taking a sip of the bitter coffee. "If it does, the galaxy will never look at us the same way again. Are you ready for that? For what will become?" Doyen thought of the screams from New Bizon. He thought of the children taken as slaves. He thought of 40,000 dead. "We're not becoming something new, Captain. We're remembering what we've always been. Humans are capable of great kindness. But when pushed, when threatened, when our families are in danger." He turned to look at her. "We're capable of anything." 1 week later, Ambassador Hyjin returned from the Galactic Council. Her answer was brief. They would not intervene. Admiral Doyen gathered his fleet commanders in the war room. 312 ships ready for battle. Thousands of soldiers waiting for orders. The entire military might of humanity, prepared to draw a line in the stars. "They think we're weak because we sought peace," Doyen said, his voice carrying to every commander in the room. "Let's show them what happens when humanity goes to war." The final ultimatum had been delivered. Now came the response. The weapons facility was hidden on the dark side of Luna, buried deep beneath ancient craters. Dr. Minho walked through the reinforced corridors with Admiral Doyen at his side, their footsteps echoing in the vast underground complex. "I never thought we'd actually use this," Minho said, pushing his glasses up his nose. He was a thin man in his 40s, with permanent dark circles under his eyes from years of sleepless nights. "When the project started, it was just theoretical research." "How theoretical?" Doyen asked. Minho led him into a massive chamber. In the center floated a device no larger than a car, covered in glowing blue lines. It hummed with barely contained energy. "We call it the Newton drive. It manipulates gravitational fields at a quantum level. In simple terms, Doctor, it can create a miniature black hole, or crush a ship like a tin can, or tear apart a moon. Minho's voice was quiet. We built a weapon that uses gravity itself as a bullet. Diane stared at the device. How many do we have? 27. We can install one on each of our largest ships. Do it. We have 30 days. While Minho prepared the weapons, Colonel Sungwoo trained his soldiers in a different kind of warfare. The training facility orbited Mars, a station dedicated entirely to special operations. Inside, 200 men and women practiced combat in zero gravity, moving through simulated Valak ship corridors. Again, Sungwoo shouted as his team missed their timing. He was a compact man built like a brick, with scars on his hands from years of combat training. The Valaks expect enemies to fight in gravity. We're going to hit them where they're weakest in space, in their own ships. In environments where they can't use their size advantage. A young soldier, Private June, struggled to control his movement in zero-G. He spun awkwardly, his rifle floating away from him. Control your breathing, Sunwoo said, catching the rifle and handing it back. In space, panic kills you. Fear makes you waste oxygen. You need to be calm, precise, efficient. Yes, sir. But Colonel, the Valaks are twice our size. Even without gravity, they're stronger. Sunwoo smiled grimly. Strength doesn't matter if you can't breathe. We're not going to fight fair, Private. We're going to fight smart. He demonstrated, moving through a mock corridor with fluid grace. At each turn, he planted magnetic charges, disabled life support systems, vented atmosphere. The ship becomes our weapon. We turn their own vessel against them. Across the solar system, in the shipyards around Jupiter, Captain Nari watched as the U.S. Indomitable received its final upgrades. The ship was humanity's newest design, built specifically for this war. It was sleeker than older vessels, covered in black armor that absorbed sensor scans. Status report, Nari commanded as she walked through the bridge. Lieutenant Yuna looked up from her console. She was the youngest officer on the bridge, fresh from the academy, but top of her class in tactical combat. All systems are green, Captain. The new shields are installed. We're running at 140% of normal power output. And the stealth systems? Tested and confirmed. We can stay invisible to Valak sensors for up to 6 hours. Nari nodded, satisfied. She ran her hand along the captain's chair, feeling the smooth material. This ship would be her home, her weapon, and possibly her tomb. How long until the fleet is ready? 18 days, Captain. Then we have time. Nari pulled up the tactical display. I want every crew member running combat drills. Every pilot practicing attack patterns. We won't get a second chance at this. In the intelligence division, analyst Taijin worked in darkness, surrounded by holographic screens showing intercepted Valak's communications. He'd been studying their language for 2 years, breaking their codes, learning their secrets. Found something, he muttered, highlighting a transmission. His supervisor, Commander Isiel, came over to look. What is it? The Valaks are planning something big. A message from their high command to their fleet commanders. Taijin played the audio. The Valaks' language sounded like grinding metal, harsh and guttural. They're giving us an ultimatum. 30 days to surrender completely, or they'll launch an attack on Earth itself. Isiel's face went pale. When was this sent? 3 hours ago. It'll reach our channel soon. They wanted their forces to know before they told us. Does Admiral Doyon know? I'm sending it to him now. Taijin's fingers flew across the keyboards. But Commander, look at this part. He isolated another section of the transmission. They're moving their entire border fleet to a staging area, the Korthan Nebula. They're grouping together for the final attack. Isiel understood immediately. They're concentrating their forces in one location, which makes them vulnerable. Taijin smiled without humor. They think we're going to surrender. They're not expecting us to attack. When the Valak's ultimatum arrived officially, the human government released it to the public. The message was broadcast across every human world, every station, every ship. The Valak's commander, Overlord Carvex, appeared on screen, a massive creature with 4 arms and scales like armor. Inferior humans, his translated words boomed. Your time is over. You have 30 days to surrender your worlds, your technology, and your freedom. You will become servants of the Valak's empire. Resistance is futile. You are weak. You are prey. Accept your fate or face extinction. The message ended with images of destroyed human colonies, burning cities, people in chains, on Earth. People watched in their homes, in public squares, in shock and fear. But something else stirred to anger. Deep, cold anger. In a school in New Seoul, a teacher turned off the broadcast. Her students sat silent, some crying. Are we really going to surrender? A young girl asked. The teacher looked at the child, then at all of them. No, she said firmly. We're not. Because humans don't surrender. We fight. Admiral Dillon received the ultimatum in his office, with Captain Nari and Colonel Sunwoo present. They watched in silence as Carvex made his threats. When it ended, Doyan stood. Captain, what's the status of the fleet? Ready in 12 days, sir. We're ahead of schedule. Colonel, your teams? Ready now, Admiral. We've been ready. Dr. Minho's weapons? Installed and tested on 17 ships so far. The rest will be complete within the week. Doyan walked to his window, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Valaks were gathering, preparing for their final assault. They thought humanity would cower. They thought humans would beg for mercy. Send a message to all fleet commanders, Doyan said. We're not waiting 30 days. We're not surrendering. We're taking the fight to them. Sir? Nari stood. You want to attack now? Before they reach Earth? I want to attack while they're concentrated in one place, confident and unprepared. The Korthan Nebula. That's where Carvex is gathering his fleet. Doyan turned to face them. That's where we'll deliver our own ultimatum. Sunwoo grinned. I like it. Hit them first. Hit them hard. But Admiral, Nari said carefully, our ultimatum. What will it say? Doyan's expression was hard as steel. Simple. Stop the attacks, withdraw from our territory, pay for the damage you've caused. Or we'll make you stop. And if they refuse, then we show them what the Newton drive can do. We demonstrate clearly and undeniably that humanity is not prey. We're the predator they woke up. 10 days later, the human fleet gathered in secret near Neptune. 312 ships, the largest military force humanity had ever assembled. On each vessel, crews worked in focused silence, checking weapons, running diagnostics, preparing for battle. Admiral Dayan stood on the bridge of his flagship, the UES Defender. Around him, officers worked at their stations. Through the view screen, he could see the fleet stretching into the distance. Points of light against the darkness. All ships report ready. Admiral, reported the communications officer. Course laid in for the Korthan Nebula, added the navigator. Doyan took a deep breath. This was it. The moment that would define humanity's future. Either they would emerge as a force to be respected, or they would be destroyed. There was no middle ground anymore. Send one final message to Earth, he said. Tell them we're going to draw the line. Tell them we'll either come back victorious, or we won't come back at all. The message was sent. Then Doyan gave the order that changed everything. All ships, jump to hyperspace. It's time to deliver our ultimatum. The fleet vanished in flashes of light, leaving empty space behind. They were heading toward the enemy, toward battle, toward the moment when humanity would finally show its teeth. The 30-day countdown meant nothing now. Humanity was done waiting. The Corthan Nebula was beautiful. Clouds of purple and blue gas swirled through space, lit from within by newborn stars. It was the kind of place that made people believe in the wonder of the universe. It was also about to become a battlefield. Commander Vectis of the Valak's Third Fleet stood on his command deck, watching sensor displays with boredom. Around him, 200 Valak's warships floated in formation, waiting for orders to advance on Earth. The humans have 5 days left on their ultimatum. 5 days until total surrender. Commander, said his sensor officer, we're detecting anomalies at the nebula edge. Anomalies? Ships emerging from hyperspace. Multiple contacts. Vectis moved closer to the display. Probably supply ships or scouts. Nothing to worry about. But then the numbers started climbing. 10 ships. 20, 50, 100. How many? Vectis demanded. 300 contacts and counting, sir. They're human ships. The entire Earth fleet. For a moment, Vectis couldn't believe it. The humans were attacking? Here? Now? It was impossible. It was insane. They should be cowering on their homeworld, preparing to surrender. Then his communications station crackled to life. A human voice, speaking in perfect Valak's language, broadcast on all channels across the entire nebula and across the entire galaxy. Attention, Valak's Empire. This is Admiral Doyon of the United Earth Fleet. We are broadcasting on all frequencies so that every species in the galaxy can hear these words. On the bridge of the U-East Defender, Dion stood straight, his uniform immaculate, his expression carved from stone. Behind him, the human fleet spread out in perfect formation. Every ship was visible, every weapon ready, a display of force that left no room for doubt. For 3 years, the Valak's Empire has attacked our colonies. You have killed our people. You have taken our citizens as slaves. You have destroyed our worlds. We tried peace. We tried diplomacy. We tried every possible way to avoid war. Doyen's voice was calm, but it carried the weight of absolute certainty. You gave us an ultimatum. Now we give you one. On every Valak ship, on every station, the message played. Across the Galactic Council chambers, representatives of 100 species watched in stunned silence. On Earth, billions of humans held their breath. Cease all attacks on human territory immediately. Withdraw from every human world you occupy. Return all prisoners and slaves. Pay reparations for the damage you have caused. You have 24 hours to comply. Commander Vectis laughed. It was a harsh, grating sound. The prey makes demands? This is, if you refuse, Dion continued, we will make you comply. This is not a bluff. This is not a negotiation. This is a statement of fact. We are drawing a line. You will not cross it again. The transmission ended. Silence filled the Valak's command deck. Then Vectis started laughing again, louder this time. His officers joined in. The humans, those weak little creatures, thought they could threaten the Valak's empire? It was the funniest thing he'd heard in years. Send a response, Vectis ordered. Tell them we reject their pathetic ultimatum. Tell them to return to Earth and prepare for slavery. His communications officer sent the message. Vectis watched the human fleet on his sensors, expecting them to turn and flee. Instead, something strange happened. A single small ship, a frigate barely the size of a Valak scout vessel, separated from the human formation. It moved toward a small moon that orbited at the edge of the nebula, a worthless chunk of rock about 50 kilometers across. What are they doing? Vectis muttered on the U-East Defender. Admiral Doyon gave the order. Activate the demonstration. Captain Nari, on the bridge of the U-E's Indomitable, watched as the frigate positioned itself above the moon. "Newton drive charged and ready," she reported. "Fire," Doyen commanded. The Newton drive activated. There was no visible beam, no explosion, no flash of light. Instead, space itself seemed to bend around the moon. Gravitational forces, stronger than those at the heart of a star, focused on a single point. The moon didn't explode. It imploded. 50 kilometers of rock and metal collapsed inward, crushing down to the size of a basketball in 3 seconds. The gravitational shock wave rippled out, disrupting sensors across the entire Valix fleet. Then the compressed matter reached critical density. It became a miniature black hole that existed for exactly 2 seconds before evaporating in a burst of radiation. When the sensors cleared, the moon was gone. Simply gone. Not broken apart, not shattered, erased from existence. On the Valix command deck, every officer stood frozen. The laughter had died. Commander Vectis stared at the empty space where a moon had been moments before. "Impossible," he whispered. Admiral Doyen's voice came through again. "That was a demonstration. A single weapon on our smallest combat vessel, targeted at an uninhabited moon. Now you know we can do this. Now you know we're not bluffing." Vectis looked at his fleet. 200 ships. They outnumbered the humans. They were larger, stronger. But that weapon, we attack, Vectis decided. "All ships, prepare for combat." They showed us a trick. "We'll show them real power. They're still just prey." His subordinate officer hesitated. "Commander, perhaps we should report to Overlord Karvix first." "Get authorization." "We have authorization. We were ordered to crush the humans if they resisted." "They resisted." Vectis pointed at the screen. "All ships, advance and attack. Destroy them all." The Valix fleet moved forward. 200 warships accelerating toward the human formation on the U East Defender. Tactical Officer Lieutenant Minjay reported, "Enemy fleet is advancing. Time to weapons range, 2 minutes." "Captain Nari," Doyen said calmly. "Execute Battle Plan Alpha." "Yes, sir." Nari's voice came through clear. "All ships, this is the Indomitable. They had their chance. Battle Plan Alpha is now active. Show them what happens when you wake up humanity." The human fleet split into 3 groups with practiced precision. The Valix expected a defensive formation, ships clustering together for protection. Instead, the humans did the opposite. The first group, led by Captain Nari's Indomitable, charged straight at the Valix center. Fast attack ships, they accelerated to speeds the Valix hadn't thought possible. The second group, under the command of Captain Suman, vanished. Stealth systems activated. They disappeared from Valix sensors completely. The third group, commanded by Admiral Doyen himself, held position and activated the Newton drives. Commander Vectis watched in confusion as the humans split apart. "What are they doing?" "Tactical analysis." "Unknown, Commander." "Their center formation is advancing at extreme speed." "The other groups have... Wait, we've lost sensor contact with 2/3 of their fleet." "That's impossible. No stealth system can hide that many ships." But it was happening. And the Valix were now committed to their attack. Their massive ships lumbering forward with all the grace of falling boulders. Lieutenant Yuna sat in the cockpit of her fighter. Part of the advanced squadron launched from the Indomitable. Around her, 50 other pilots flew in tight formation, racing toward the Valix fleet. "Remember your training," Nari's voice came through her helmet. "Speed is your armor. Precision is your weapon. Make every shot count." "Yes, Captain," Yuna responded. Her fighter was tiny compared to a Valix warship, a mosquito compared to a bear. But mosquitoes could still bite. The Valix ships opened fire. Massive energy beams lanced through space, trying to hit the small, fast human fighters. But Yuna and her squadron moved like water, flowing around the attacks, never staying still. "Break and attack," Yuna commanded. The squadron split, each fighter targeting specific weak points on the Valak ships. Not the armor, not the shields. The sensor arrays, the weapon ports, the engine exhausts. Yuna's targeting computer locked on. She fired a burst from her weapons, small projectiles, but moving at relativistic speeds. They punched through a Valak ship's sensor dome like bullets through paper. All across the battlefield, human fighters swarmed the Valak's vessels, too small and fast to hit, striking at vulnerable points with surgical precision. Then Captain Suman's stealth group struck. They appeared suddenly, right in the middle of the Valak's formation, their stealth systems dropping all at once. Before the Valaks could react, they fired torpedoes at point-blank range into engine sections and weapon systems. Explosions rippled through the Valak's fleet. Ships listed sideways, losing power. Others collided with each other in the confusion. "What's happening?" Vectis screamed. "How did they get through our sensors?" He never got an answer. Colonel Sunwoo and his special operations team had already breached Vectis' ship through an unguarded docking port. They moved through the corridors in zero gravity, using magnetic boots and precise movements. "Life support control, 50 meters ahead," Sunwoo whispered to his team. They moved silently, efficiently, encountering minimal resistance. The Valak's crew was focused on the external battle, never expecting an attack from inside. Sunwoo reached the life support system and planted explosive charges. Not to destroy it, just to disable it. Charges set. "Team, withdraw to extraction point." They moved back through the corridors as the charges detonated. Atmosphere vented from multiple sections. Alarms blared. The Valak's crew, unable to breathe, scrambled and panicked outside. Admiral Daeun watched the battle unfold exactly as planned. The Valak's fleet was in chaos, their ships damaged, their commanders confused. "Newton drives," he said quietly. "Target their capital ships. Fire." 27 human vessels activated their weapons. The news of the Battle of Korthan Nebula spread across the galaxy like wildfire. On 1,000 worlds, in 100 different languages, people spoke of the impossible. Humanity had defeated a Valak's fleet on the Valak's homeworld of Valixa Prime. Overlord Karvik stood in his war room, surrounded by his generals. The massive chamber was built from dark stone, decorated with trophies from 100 conquered worlds. But today, those trophies felt like lies. "Explain this to me again," Karvik said, his voice dangerously quiet. "How did Commander Vectis lose 200 ships to a species we called prey?" General Morven, his scales pale with fear, stepped forward. "The humans have weapons we didn't anticipate. Technology that manipulates gravity itself. And their tactics, they fight unlike any species we've encountered. So we underestimated them." Karvek's 4 arms clenched into fists. "Then we won't make that mistake again. Gather every fleet, every ship, every soldier. We will crush Earth itself and show the galaxy what happens when anyone defies the Valak's empire." On Earth, the victory celebration was brief. Admiral Daeun knew the Valaks wouldn't accept defeat. They would escalate. And escalation meant danger for every human world. He called a meeting with his key officers and scientists. Captain Nari arrived first, followed by Colonel Sunwoo and Dr. Minho. A new face joined them, Dr. Yumbi, a xenobiologist who specialized in studying alien cultures. "We hurt them," Doyan began, "but we didn't stop them. The Valaks will respond with overwhelming force. We need to be ready." "Admiral," Umbi said nervously, "I've been studying Valak psychology since the war began. There's something important you need to understand about their culture." "Go on," The Valak society is built on a dominance hierarchy. The strong rule, the weak serve. It's biological, coded into their very nature. She pulled up images of Valak's history wars, conquests, brutal displays of power. When we tried to negotiate peacefully, they interpreted it as submission, weakness. It actually encouraged them to attack more. Nari leaned forward. So by demonstrating our strength, we've changed their perception of us? Partially. But here's the problem. In Valak's culture, if you challenge them and don't completely destroy them, they're honor-bound to respond with greater force. It's not about strategy anymore. It's about proving they're still the apex predator. Sun will cross his arms. So we're in a fight to the finish. They can't back down without losing face. Exactly, Yunbi confirmed. Doyun absorbed this information. Then, we need to prepare for their counterattack. Dr. Minho, how many Newton drives can we produce? We're at maximum production now. Maybe 50 more units in the next 2 weeks. Not enough. We need defensive capabilities too. Dion turned to a new officer who had just entered, Engineer Jiwan, head of planetary defense systems. What's the status of the fortress project? Jiwan, a practical woman who always carried a datapad, pulled up schematics. We've completed installation on 3 colonies: New Seoul, Armstrong Station, and Terra Nova. The shield systems are revolutionary. They can withstand sustained bombardment for up to 72 hours. How does it work? Layered energy shields, powered by the planet's own magnetic field. The Valaks can shoot at it all day. The more energy they pour in, the stronger it gets. Good. Accelerate installation on all other colonies. If the Valaks attack them, I want our people protected. While Earth prepared its defenses, Captain Suman led her stealth reconnaissance ships deep into Valak's territory. Her mission was simple but dangerous. Gather intelligence on the Valak's response. The UES, Shadow and its sister ships moved silently through space, their stealth systems making them nearly invisible. They positioned themselves near major Valak's military stations, listening to communications, watching fleet movements. Captain, said her communications officer. Lieutenant Daeyun, I'm intercepting encrypted transmissions. High priority, military codes. Can you decrypt them? Working on it. The analyst Taijin sent us the latest code keys before we left. His fingers flew across his console. Got it. Oh no. What is it? The Valaks are mobilizing everything. Every fleet, every reserve unit. They're gathering at 3 staging areas. He pulled up a star map showing massive concentrations of Valak ships. Captain, there are thousands of them. They're planning a simultaneous attack on multiple human colonies. Suman's blood went cold. Which colonies? New Seoul, Armstrong, and Terra Nova. The 3 colonies with defensive shields. The Valaks were testing humanity's defenses, seeing if they could break through. Send this to Admiral Doyan immediately. Then get us closer. I want to know their exact attack timetable. The reconnaissance ships moved deeper into danger, gathering every piece of information they could. Back at Earth's headquarters, the intelligence reached Admiral Doyan within hours. He studied the data with growing concern. The Valaks weren't being subtle. They were bringing overwhelming force. They'll attack within 10 days, Analyst Taijin said, having arrived to brief the Admiral personally. 3 massive fleets attacking 3 colonies simultaneously. They want to prove they can still destroy us. Can the shields hold? Diane asked Engineer Jiwan. Against conventional weapons, yes. But Admiral, look at this. She highlighted part of the intercepted communications. They're bringing something called a planet breaker, a weapon designed to crack worlds open. The room went silent. We've heard rumors of it, Yumbi added. The Valaks supposedly used it once before on a species that refused to surrender. They split the planet in half. Diane stood, pacing the room. Then, we can't let them get close enough to use it. We need to intercept them before they reach our colonies. Admiral, Nari said carefully, we'd be outnumbered 5-1. Maybe worse. I know. But we can't let them attack civilian populations. He turned to Sunwoo. Colonel, I have a special mission for you. Something crazy. Sunwoo grinned. My favorite kind. I need you to infiltrate one of those staging areas and disable that planet breaker weapon. The grin faded. That's behind enemy lines. Deep behind enemy lines. Can you do it? Sunwoo thought for a moment, then nodded. Give me my best team and the fastest ship we have. We'll do it. While Sunwoo prepared his mission, Captain Suman's reconnaissance ships made a disturbing discovery. Lieutenant Daeun called her to his station, his face pale. Captain, we've intercepted a new transmission. It's worse than the planet breaker. Worse? How? They're developing a biological weapon. Something designed specifically to target humans. The transmission mentions releasing it on Earth if their conventional attacks fail. Suman felt sick. A biological weapon? That's genocide. The facility is here. He marked a location on the star map. It's heavily guarded but separate from their main military installations. Suman made a decision. Send this information to Admiral Doyan. Tell him we're going to investigate the facility further. If we can locate it precisely, maybe we can destroy it. On Earth, the new intelligence hit Doyen like a physical blow. A bioweapon. The Valaks were willing to exterminate humanity entirely. This changes everything, he said to his assembled commanders. This isn't just a war. This is an extinction event. They won't stop. They'll keep attacking until one of us is gone. What do we do? Nari asked. Doyan looked at each of them. Nari, Minho, Yumbi, John, and the others who had gathered. Good people, working to protect humanity. They were asking him to make an impossible choice. We gave them an ultimatum, he said slowly. They rejected it. They're planning to destroy our colonies and release a plague on Earth. He took a deep breath. We have 10 days before their attack. In that time, we prepare for 2 operations. First, Colonel Sunwoo's mission to disable the planet breaker. Second, Captain Suman locates and destroys the bioweapon facility. And the third operation? Minho asked. The third operation is the entire fleet. We're going to Velixir Prime. Shocked silence filled the room. Their homeworld? Nari said. Admiral, that's the only way to end this. Doyen's voice was firm. They won't stop until we make them stop. We're not going to destroy their world. We're going to show them we could if we wanted to. We're going to make them understand, once and for all, that humanity is not prey. Yumbi nodded slowly. In Valak's culture, showing you can destroy their homeworld, but choosing not to, that's the ultimate display of strength. It's mercy from a position of total dominance. Exactly. We gave them 20 days on our ultimatum. We have 10 days left. We use those 10 days to prepare. Then we take the entire fleet to their capital, and we end this war. The preparation began immediately. Colonel Sunwoo selected his Team 20 of the best special operations soldiers humanity had. They trained in secret, preparing to infiltrate a Valak's military installation. Engineer Jiwan worked around the clock to strengthen the colony shields. If Sunwoo's mission failed, those shields would be all that stood between millions of civilians and destruction. Dr. Minho upgraded every Newton drive, making them more powerful, more precise. Captain Nari drilled the fleet in combat maneuvers, preparing for the largest battle humanity had ever fought. And Captain Suman's stealth ships moved closer to the bioweapon facility, gathering detailed scans, looking for weaknesses. Admiral Doyen stood in his office, looking at Earth below. In 10 days, the fleet would leave for Velixir Prime. Either humanity would emerge victorious, finally earning respect and safety in the galaxy, or the planet breaker was a weapon from nightmares. Colonel Sunwoo watched it through his binoculars from a hidden position on an asteroid. His team spread out around him in the darkness of space. The weapon was massive, the size of a city, mounted on a special carrier ship. Energy coils ran along its length, pulsing with barely contained power. According to intelligence, when fired, it would create a focused gravitational beam that could literally tear a planet apart. "That's our target," Sunwoo said quietly into his helmet radio. "Remember the plan. We get in, plant the charges, and get out before anyone knows we were there." His team consisted of 20 soldiers, all volunteers. They knew the risks. Deep in Valak's territory, surrounded by enemy ships. One mistake would mean death. "Move out," Sunwoo ordered. They used small thruster packs to cross the empty space between the asteroid and the carrier ship. The Valaks didn't expect an attack here in their own territory. Their security was focused outward, not inward. Sunwoo's team landed on the hull silently. They cut through an access panel using plasma torches and slipped inside. The interior was designed for Valaks. Everything was larger. The corridors higher, the doors wider. The team moved through it like shadows. They encountered their first patrol after 10 minutes. 4 Valaks guards, massive creatures with weapons built into their armor. Sunwoo gave a hand signal. His team struck simultaneously from 4 directions. The fight was silent and brutal. The humans used close combat weapons, avoiding energy fire that might trigger alarms. In 30 seconds, all 4 guards were down. "Keep moving," Sunwoo whispered. They had limited time. They reached the planet breaker's power core after 20 more minutes of careful movement. It was a massive chamber, filled with energy conduits and control systems. "Plant the charges," Sunwoo ordered. His team moved quickly, placing explosive devices on key systems. These weren't designed to destroy the weapon, just to disable it permanently. But as they worked, alarms suddenly blared through the ship. Red lights flashed. "We're discovered," someone shouted. "Finish the job," Sunwoo commanded. "We didn't come this far to quit now." His team worked faster, placing the last charges even as the sound of Valak's soldiers grew closer. Sunwoo set the timer. 5 minutes. "Everyone out now." They ran through the corridors, no longer worried about stealth. Valak's soldiers appeared ahead of them. Sunwoo's team opened fire, their weapons cutting through armor. Behind them, more soldiers closed in. They reached the hull access point. "Go, go, go!" Sunwoo pushed his team through, covering their retreat. He was the last one out, sealing the door behind him. The team activated their thruster packs and pushed away from the ship as fast as possible. Behind them, the carrier ship's weapons came alive, firing into space. Energy beams lanced past them. Then the charges detonated. The planet breaker's power core overloaded. Explosions rippled through the carrier ship. The weapon itself cracked in half, its energy coil shattering. It wouldn't destroy planets anymore. It was now just scrap metal. "Mission accomplished," Sunwoo said, breathing hard. "Let's go home." His team raced toward their waiting stealth ship, dodging enemy fire. They lost 2 soldiers in the escape, but the rest made it aboard. The ship jumped to hyperspace, leaving the destroyed weapon behind. At the same time, Captain Suman's reconnaissance ships approached the bioweapon facility. It was a station orbiting a dead moon, hidden and heavily defended. "Scans complete," Lieutenant Daehyun reported. "The bioweapon is in the central laboratory. But Captain, the shields around the station are too strong. We can't break through with our weapons." Suman studied the scans. The shields were indeed formidable. But there was always a weakness if you looked hard enough. "There," she said, pointing at the scan. The shield generators draw power from the station's reactor. If we overload the reactor, the shields will fail. How do we overload it from out here? We don't. Suman stood. I'm going in. Prepare a boarding team. 10 minutes later, Suman and 5 others slipped through a small gap in the shields using a captured Valak shuttle. They docked at a maintenance port and entered the station. The corridors were eerily quiet. Most of the station's crew was in the laboratories, working on the weapon. Suman's team moved toward the reactor level. They encountered scientists rather than soldiers, Valak's researchers who barely knew how to fight. The humans subdued them quickly and reached the reactor control room. Lieutenant Daeun, Suman said into her communicator, I'm at the reactor. Talk me through the overload procedure. Back on her ship, Daeun pulled up reactor schematics. You need to disable the cooling systems and push the reactor to maximum output. It should overload in about 5 minutes. Suman's hands moved across the alien controls. The reactor began to hum louder, its temperature rising. Done. Team, we need to leave now. They ran back through the corridors. Behind them, alarms started blaring. The Valak's crew realized something was wrong. Soldiers appeared, blocking their path to the shuttle. Find another way out. Suman ordered. They diverted into a side corridor, searching for escape pods. The station shook as the reactor began to fail. They found an emergency pod and piled inside. Suman launched it just as the reactor reached critical mass. The explosion tore through the station, destroying the shields, the laboratories, and the bio-weapon. The shockwave caught the pod, sending it spinning. But they were clear. The bioweapon was destroyed, while these missions succeeded. Admiral Daeun led the entire human fleet toward Valixia Prime. 300 warships. The full might of humanity jumped through hyperspace together, on the bridge of the U.E.'s Defender. Daeun stood watching the countdown. In 2 hours, they would arrive at the Valak's homeworld. Admiral, Captain Nari said from the Indomitable, her voice coming through the communication system. The Valaks will have their entire defense fleet waiting for us. This will be the biggest battle in human history. I know, Daeun replied. But they need to understand we can reach their homeworld. They need to know we could destroy it if we wanted to. And if they don't surrender, then we fight until they do. Or until there's nothing left to fight with. The fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Valixia Prime system. Before them, the Valak's homeworld hung in space, a massive planet covered in cities. Home to billions. And surrounding it was the largest fleet humanity had ever seen. Thousands of Valak's warships, every vessel the Empire could gather, waited in defensive formation. On the planetary surface in the Imperial Palace, Empress Jarva stood in her war room. She was ancient by Valak standards, her scales dark with age, but her mind was sharp. She watched the tactical display as the human fleet appeared. 300 ships, she said. They dared to attack our homeworld with only 300 ships. They're insane, Empress, said her military advisor. We outnumber them 10 to 1. Then why do I feel afraid? Jarva said quietly. She had ruled the Valak's empire for 40 years. She had conquered dozens of worlds. But something about the humans unsettled her. Admiral Daeun broadcast on all channels again. His message reaching every ship, every station, every screen on Valixia Prime. Empress Jarva of the Valak's Empire. I am Admiral Daeun of the United Earth Fleet. We stand at your homeworld. We have disabled your planet breaker. We have destroyed your bioweapon facility. We have come here to deliver our final ultimatum. On the planet's surface, billions of Valaks watched the broadcast. They saw the human fleet, small but defiant, hovering at their doorstep. You have attacked us for 3 years. You killed our people. You enslaved our citizens. You destroyed our worlds. We gave you a chance to stop. You refused. You escalated. You planned genocide. Diane's voice was ice cold. Now you will listen. Cease all hostilities immediately. Withdraw from all human territory. Return every prisoner. Pay reparations for the damage you have caused. Do this, and we will leave your homeworld untouched. If you refuse, Diane paused. Look at your sensors. Look at the Newton drives we have positioned around your planet. We could turn Galixer Prime into a singularity. We could erase your homeworld from existence. But we won't. Do you know why? Empress Jarva listened, her heart's pounding. Because we're not you, Doyoung continued. We don't destroy worlds. We don't commit genocide. We defend ourselves. We draw lines. But we're also capable of mercy, even to those who showed us none. The transmission ended. Silence filled the void of space. Jarva looked at her military advisor. Can we defeat them? Probably, Empress. But the cost? They'll destroy hundreds of our ships before we win. And if they activate those weapons before we stop them, our homeworld dies. Yes, Empress. Jarva closed her eyes. In Valak's culture, strength was everything. For 40 years, she had maintained power by being stronger than everyone else. But now she faced an impossible choice. Fight and possibly lose everything. Or surrender and show weakness. Then Dr. Yumbi's voice came through on a private channel, speaking directly to the Empress in fluent Valak's. Empress Jarva, my name is Dr. Yumbi. I'm a human who has studied your culture for many years. How dare you contact me directly? Jarva growled. Because I understand your position. In Valak's culture, surrender is weakness. But let me tell you something about human culture. We admire those who are strong enough to choose peace. The humans standing before you could destroy your world. Instead, they're offering you a choice.